Tell me about the other guests at the B&B. Aiden?
We just have to be, there was none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was none. And how did she explain that? Jaslyn? Yes, she's picky. You have to be a certain type of guest before she lets you in. Was she very clear exactly what kind of guest she was looking for?
Well, yes.
Did she tell him, I need you to be this, this, and this before I let you in?
No.
No. Did she kind of hint at it?
Yeah.
What are some things that she hinted at, Andy?
That to be a nice person.
Okay, we kind of guessed. We inferred that, you can't look super sketchy. You are going into a lady's house. She's older. She's alone. Yeah, you can't have like blood splattered on you or something and look like you're running from the cops. Yes, Tyler. She's picky about who she lets stay with her. So what is she looking for?
Kind people.
Okay, she probably wants some manners, some politeness, sure. Mhm.
She said you.
Yes, once in a while I'll open the door and there's the perfect young gentleman. Yeah, perfect like who?
Really?
Like Billy, something's perfect about him.
Well,
He's a 17-year-old kid who's there for his job. He needs some guidance in the world. She just loves helping people. So she took him upstairs, and like we had said, she's very thoughtful because she had warmed up the bed, had it ready to go, offered for him to light a fire if he wanted to. And then asked him if he wants dinner. He says, no, thanks. And she says, very well, then I'll leave you now so that you can unpack. But before you go to bed, would you be kind enough to pop into the sitting room on the ground floor and sign the book? Everyone has to do that because it's the law of the land and we don't want to go breaking any laws, do we? She gave him a little wave of the hand and went quickly out of the room and closed the door. What does she mean, sign the book? Somebody, hold on. All three of you have already answered today. So have you. You answered something. I want to make other people think too. I'm glad you know. Luke? Okay, so she probably has some rules about staying, like you break it, you buy it kind of thing. Sure. Brooklyn? Exactly, yes. If they leave and she notices all of her best silverware is gone, she needs to go track down this person. Yeah, they got to sign the book. Manuel?
Oh. It's like a contact.
Yeah, it's probably some kind of contract. It also is keeping track of the guests. Weddings and funerals have a guest book. Airbnbs have a guest book. It's a way of keeping track who's been there. Yeah. I don't know. Some hotels have one in like the room. It's not like a requirement. I mean, now they have like their computer system keeps track of everybody who's been there. Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of cool to see, oh, look, 50 years ago, someone was staying in here. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Now, so Billy's alone, getting all unpacked. He'll go downstairs in a second, but he's thinking to himself. Now, the fact that this landlady appeared to be slightly off her rocker didn't worry Billy in the least. After all, she was not only harmless, but she was also quite obviously a kind and generous soul. So Billy sees her as harmless. What does that mean? Jocelyn? She won't, yeah, she's harmless. She's not gonna hurt anybody. She doesn't bite. And she's quite obviously a kind and generous soul. He guessed she probably lost a son in the war or something like that and had never gotten over it. So he's trying to explain to himself, like, the reason she seems a little off and is a little too obsessed with me, it was just World War I had just happened. So, grief does some mess up things to people. If she was grieving, maybe she just made her a little bit kooky. Plus, she wants to take care of another, a boy like the son that she lost. Most likely. That's his prediction. Aiden?
Maybe she already knew him, he just didn't know her.
Great. How?
Like yesterday when like she knew him, but he was like he didn't take
Like maybe she met him when he was younger and he just didn't remember. Gotcha. Yes, Brooklyn?
He could maybe his mom or something could have met her and introduce him to her.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't remember all the people my mom introduced me to when I was little. Jargon?
Maybe that Billy was her mom.
Oh, wow. Whoa. Yeah. Like someone's going to pop out of the next room and be like, surprise! This is your mom.
I'll be like,
I love that you guys are making predictions. That is. And what if he had like, nah, I'm not going in. And he just kept walking to the Bell and Dragon. Like, wait, we had this whole thing planned. I love your predictions. I love it. Okay. So that's how he's kind of explaining to himself why she is how she is. Yeah, she's a little kooky, but grief messes with the person. Also, she's obsessed with me, but maybe I'm like the son that she lost. So a few minutes later, after unpacking his suitcase and washing his hands, he trotted down to the ground floor and entered the living room. Remember the living room?
Wait, the 4 chairs. Or 3 chairs.
oh,
I mean, that's a 3 people that were another 4.
Remember, I got this picture off of Google. I don't know exactly how many chairs the landlady had, but in a living room at a B&B, you probably do have enough seats for a group. His landlady wasn't there, but the fire was glowing in the hearth and the little dachshund was still sleeping in front of it. The room was wonderfully warm and cozy. I am a lucky fellow, he thought, rubbing his hands together. This is all right. He found the guest book lying open on the piano, so he took out his pen and wrote down his name and address.
Your address?
Yeah.
Address.
What if she needs to find him again? What if he stole something? She needs to know who this guy is. Dude, if you're alone and you have a business where you let people come stay in your house, you need some information from them. If you give your hotel your driver's license or a credit card, they know your address. Not coming to your house. Well, there are certain rules you have to be able to follow to have a business, and if you can't follow them, you don't get a business. Oh my gosh. Conspiracy theory. Back on track, please. There were only 2 other entries on this particular page, and as one always does with guest books, he read through them. One was Christopher Mulholland. The other was Gregory Temple. Oh, that's funny, he thought suddenly. Christopher Mulholland rings a bell. Where on earth had he heard that unusual name before? Was it a boy at school? No. Was it one of his sister's numerous young men? Perhaps. Or a friend of his father's? No, it wasn't any of those. So that's what that figure is. There is not a figure standing in the living room. No, it's like when you see somebody in the store and you know them, but you can't figure out, is it from school? Is it from church? Is it from camp? Is it your neighbor? I know you, but I don't remember who you are. It's like you can almost see them. It's right there. It's so close. He glanced down again at the book. Christopher Mulholland. Gregory Temple. As a matter of fact, now that he came to think of it, that second name was just as familiar as the first. Huh. Gregory Temple, he said aloud, searching his memory. Christopher Mulholland. Such charming boys, a voice behind him answered, and he turned to see his landlady sailing into the room with a large silver tea tray in her hands. She was holding it far out in front of her and high up, like she was holding the reins of a frisky horse. This lady knows how to make an entrance, huh? She pops through the front door. She sails into the room with her tea. They sound somehow familiar, he said. They do? How interesting. I'm almost positive I've heard those names before somewhere. Isn't that strange? Maybe it was in the newspapers? No, I couldn't find it. Oh my God.
Guys, she just found a picture.
I found a picture on Google and I blurred it out because I don't want you to get distracted by what this newspaper actually says. But remember, it's foggy in his brain anyway. He doesn't know exactly where he's seen their names. He thinks maybe he recognizes them from the paper. I don't care. It's not going to matter. Whatever was there is from like, 1970 or something. It's not relevant. Maybe it was from the newspapers. Were they famous in some way? I mean, famous footballers or something like that. Famous, she said, setting the tea tray down on the low table in front of the sofa. Oh, no, I don't think they were famous, but they were extraordinarily handsome, both of them. I can promise you that. They were tall and young and handsome, my dear, just exactly like you. Once more, Billy glanced down at the book. Oh, look here, he said, noticing the dates. This last entry is nearly 2 years old. It is? Yes, and Christopher Mulholland's is nearly a year before that. More than 3 years ago. Oh, dear me, she said, shaking her head and heaving a dainty little sigh. I would never have thought it. How time does fly away from us all, doesn't it, Mr. Wilkins? It's Weaver, Billy said. Oh, of course it is, she cried, sitting down on the sofa. How silly of me. I do apologize. In one ear and out the other. That's me, Mr. Weaver. You know something, Billy said. Something that's really quite extraordinary about all of this. No, dear, I don't. You will not let this go. Well, you see, both of these names, Mulholland and Temple, I not only seem to remember each of them separately, so to speak, but somehow, in some peculiar way, they both appear to be sort of connected together as well, as though they were both famous for the same sort of thing. If you see what I mean. Okay, he's about to give a whole list of people that belong together, but none of the names are going to mean anything to you. So, Phineas and Ferb, Tom and Jerry, Ron and Hermione, Ron and Harry, SpongeBob and Patrick, Rick and Morty.
You know the monsters on Earth? You know, or Jack and Quinn? Batman and Robin. Yeah.
Batman and Robin, Jack and Clint. Okay. From. So, do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So he gives a list of people that go together. Just now you know what he's going to say. But those names probably won't mean anything to you. But he feels like in his head somehow now that he's recognized these guys' names, he knows both of their names and somehow they're connected. Oh, okay. Perfect stopping point. We need to go do a second summary. My document camera isn't working, so I'm going to put a Word document up. I know this is not how your notes look, but you'll be okay. Correct. We are on the summary and prediction side. What summary are we ready for? Thank you. S2. Remember, a summary puts together the main points in about one sentence, two sentences maybe. We haven't read much since our last summary. Remember, we wrote summary number 1 right when she left him up in the bedroom. So we've got just since he came downstairs to talk about, but something clearly significant to Billy has happened. What has he discovered? Andy?
He went to go swimming.
Okay. I love it. Let's take out the detail about signing the book. Who cares? No, I don't know. If we only get one sentence, but yes. So write a complete sentence about something like there are only, how many? Nope. 2 names in the book. Ooh, and what is significant about these names? Miley? What is significant about the 2 names in the book? He feels like he knows them. And one other thing that should be something that makes your eyebrow go up. Caleb? Well, they have, yep, that's why they're in the book. Tyson or Gavin? But they're connected. Yeah. Luke. Well, yeah, we just said that. Jasmine? Yeah. Why is that weird? No one has been there in about 2 or 3 years. Why is that weird? But why is that something that should make you go, huh? Aiden?
Because she's always someone that people don't like or they don't like what she acts.
Good point. Even she's so terrible, people don't want to stay there. Or Tyler?
Or she there's the reason why there's been no one that's probably been there in 2 years is because she's probably been really talkative
Maybe.
really
Okay. Oh my gosh. Tell the person near. Everybody wants to share, so tell the person near you what you're thinking. Go. You already got to share anyway. Why is it a big deal that not many people have stayed there in the last 3 years? Nobody has stayed there in the last 3 years.
to be honest, I think for some reason I kind of think that's doing stories since nobody said that maybe in the year some did stay there. And after that she started
3, 2,
maybe
1. Okay, some of you are letting your imagination go crazy. Whether it's a good reason or a bad reason, no one has been there in 3 years. Now, that could have been because nobody likes it there, or maybe they love it there and they stayed for a year or so. The only reason it matters is because this is her business. Can you run a business if you don't have any guests? So it's interesting, at least something's going on there. Either somebody stayed super long or I don't know. No, I'm so glad you have a prediction. Guess what you'll get to do? You'll get to write it down in your prediction spot. But for now, there are only 2 names in the book from the last few years, and they seem familiar to Billy. Oh, come on. Then you get to make your prediction on P2. Predict, why hasn't there been anyone there in 3 years? Okay, I am really excited to see your predictions, and I'm really proud of you for getting your brain going in the story, but we can't hear them all right now. I'm sorry. It's like your third one. Okay, so let's see if Billy can let it go or if he is still going to obsess over how he knows these guys. So this is just after he's decided they're connected somehow. How amusing, she said. But come over here now, dear. Sit down beside me and have a nice cup of tea and a ginger biscuit before you go to bed. You really shouldn't bother, Billy said. I didn't mean for you to do anything like that. He stood by the piano, watching her as she fussed about with the cups and saucers. He noticed that she had small, quick hands and red fingernails. I'm almost positive it was in the newspapers I saw them, Billy said. I'll think of it in a second. I'm sure I will. There is nothing more frustrating and tempting than a thing that is just outside your memory. He hated to give up. Now, wait a minute, he said. Wait just a minute. Mulholland. Christopher Mulholland. Wasn't that the name of the schoolboy who was on a walking tour through the West Country and then all of a sudden, milk and sugar? Yes, please. Then all of a sudden, a schoolboy. No, my dear, that can't possibly be right because my Mr. Mulholland was certainly not a schoolboy when he came to me. He was a Cambridge undergraduate. College age. I think she's like done with him. This is boring to her. Like, I don't want to sit here and watch you try to figure this out. Come over here now and sit next to me and warm yourself in front of this lovely fire. Come on, your tea's all ready for you. She patted the seat beside her on the sofa, and she sat there smiling at Billy, waiting for him to come over. He crossed the room slowly and sat down on the edge of the sofa. She placed his teacup on the table in front of him. There we are. How nice this is, isn't it? Billy started sipping his tea, and she did the same. For half a minute or so, neither of them spoke, but Billy knew that she was looking at him, Her body was half turned towards him, and he could feel her eyes resting on his face, watching him over the rim of her teacup. Now and again, he caught a whiff of a peculiar smell that seemed to come from her. It was not unpleasant. It reminded him of, he wasn't sure what it reminded him of. Walnuts? Leather? A hospital? Okay, first of all, Billy cannot remember anything. And also, those are three very different things. Walnuts, leather, a hospital. That's three very different things. Mr. Mulholland was a great lover of tea. Never in my life have I seen anyone drink as much tea as dear sweet Mr. Mulholland. I suppose he left fairly recently, Billy said. He was still puzzling over those two names. He was positive now that he had seen them in the newspaper, in the headlines. Left, she said, raising her eyebrow. But, my dear boy, he never left. He's still here. Mr. Temple is also here. They're on the third floor, both of them. So remember when she took him through the house, first floor was her, second floor was apparently there's a third floor. So now we know it's that. Why haven't there been guests in the last 3 years?
Because all the rooms are taken.
Yeah, all the rooms are taken. They're still here. She doesn't need more money. She's already got theirs. They're paying her to stay there. Summary 3. Come on. Nothing has really happened except for Billy finally got to the bottom of the mystery in his brain. Where is he sure he knows the names from now? There you go. He knows the names from, finish that sentence, and then make your prediction. Oh, and they also said they are still at the B and B. Predict why they're still there. Did they, they're also like him and they just needed a place to stay, a motherly figure? Did she adopt them? Are they there on business for a long time? Are they her, I don't know, son-in-laws? I don't know. Yeah. Well, then I think she would probably not leave their names in the book as evidence. That's kind of a bad kidnapper. If they're going to kidnap them and keep letting guests in the house. No, write it down. Write down your prediction. Write it down. Write it down. I believe you that it's good. Write it down. We have to keep reading. Dude, I don't know why you guys are thinking that way, but if that's your prediction, whatever. That doesn't explain why they're still there. Oh my God. Why would I be reading you a story like that? Okay. Finish those sentences while I keep reading. Billy set down his cup slowly on the table and stared at his landlady. She smiled back at him and put one of her hands comfortingly on his knee. How old are you, dear? 17. Oh, 17, she cried. That's the perfect age. Mr. Mulholland was also 17, but I think he was a trifle shorter than you are. In fact, I'm sure he was, and his teeth are quite so white. You have the most beautiful teeth, Mr. Weaver. Did you know that? They're not as good as they look, Billy said. Mr. Temple, of course, was a little older, she said, ignoring his remark. He was actually 28, and yet I never would have guessed it if he hadn't told me. Never in my whole life. There wasn't a blemish on his whole body. Oh, what? Billy said. His skin. It was just like a baby's. There was a pause. Billy picked up his teacup and took another sip of his tea. What's a blemish? There wasn't a blemish on his whole body. Jarian. Yes, Maddox. What? A wrinkle, a scar, a freckle, a pimple, there wasn't anything to like mess it up. It was like a baby's. I don't know. I don't know.
No, it's about his name.
That's for you to wonder about. I've got this much left to read to you tomorrow. Consider how the heck she would know something like that. And we'll finish the story tomorrow.